Hello everyone, we are back at the Capablanca saga. I hope you are all having a wonderful Sunday because we are at the final round of the first part of the 1914 tournament in St. Petersburg. It's Jose Raul Capablanca versus Joseph Henry Blackburne. Now, we've covered a few games by Joseph Henry Blackburne before, some of his better games. You all know they called him the Black Death or in Deutsch der Schwarze Tod after his great performance in the 1873 Vienna tournament. That's unconfirmed, but it's the general opinion. But if you have some further knowledge to this, do share in the comments. Now, the first thing you will see in the description below will be two links to two games by Joseph Henry Blackburne if you're a newer subscriber to this channel or if you've just stumbled upon this video. So do check it out so you get an idea of what kind of a player Joseph Henry Blackburne was. Because this is not Joseph Henry Blackburne in his prime. Joseph Henry Blackburne here in the 1914 tournament of St. Petersburg is already 73 years old. So it's some 40 years have passed since Blackburne was in his prime when he, defeated players like Steinitz and such. But okay, still definitely a strong player and still a lot of knowledge in this guy. But yeah, he's so old that when Blackburne was already a teenager when Morphy was conquering Europe, and it was actually Morphy's great conquest of Europe that led Joseph Henry Blackburne to take on chess. Before that, he was mostly a draughtsman. But okay, that being said, let's check out this very nice game. Capablanca has the white pieces, and of course Capablanca opens with e4. We have e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and now bishop to b5. Capablanca goes for the Ruy Lopez, and here already an interesting move by Blackburne, knight to d4, the bird's defense, and it's a nice line. You can play it, of course. If you're playing against really weak opponents, maybe they will even capture the e5 pawn, and then you can just win the game immediately with queen to g5. Now, you're attacking the knight. If the knight moves, you can pick up the bishop on b5, or you can go for the g2 pawn, for example, knight f3. Let's say you capture here, doesn't really matter. The knight is attacked twice, the rook is under attack, and white just falls apart. It's a similar idea in the Italian game, when you don't go bishop to b5, when you go bishop to c4. Again, you can go knight d4, and then if captures, you can finish the game with great style if your opponent goes for knight captures on f7. Attacks the rook, captures, rook f1, and now you can go queen captures with check, bishop blocks, and knight f3, a nice smothered mate. So, okay, it's a similar idea like in the Italian, but here it's a bit different. But still, the thread behind capturing d5 pawn is queen g5 with an attack against the g2 pawn and the knight, so just to cover that. But okay, Capablanca goes knight captures on d4. In the Italian, you can also kick the knight with c3, but here your bishop is under attack. Knight captures, pawn captures, and now comes castles by Capablanca. So what's really Black's compensation for this doubled pawn? Well, Black's plan is to play c6 and take advantage of now the bishop isn't looking all that great on b5. Black will play c6, knight e7, and then push d5 to break the center. So, it's playable. G6 by Blackburne, we have d3 by Capablanca, and now bishop to g7. Knight to d2, we have knight to e7 as planned, c6, d5 is coming, and here comes f4. You want to play knight f3, but before that you want to push the pawn to f4 so the knight doesn't block the f pawn. We have c6 now, taking advantage of the bishop's funny position. Bishop to c4, and now d5, breaking the center. And of course, Capablanca does not wish to capture here. We have bishop to b3, and now Blackburne castles. We have knight to f3 by Capablanca, improving the position of the knight. Also now the bishop may come into play at some point. And we have c5. Now Blackburne's plan is to push b5 and c4 and try to trap the bishop. Of course, he's not hoping to win the bishop. He just wants to expand on the queen side and also take advantage of this bishop looking awkward on the queen side. One of the reasons, sorry about that, no idea how I did that, why this knight to d4 plan is playable for Black. And here we have e5. Capablanca takes more space in the center, and now comes b5. Now c4 definitely is a threat, so Capablanca needs to figure out what to do with the bishop. We have c3, making some room on c2 for the bishop. C4, we have bishop to c2, and now d captures on c3. We have b captures on c3, and now queen to a5, going after the c3 pawn, and Capablanca defends, bishop to d2. We have bishop to g4, now pinning the knight, and here d4. Capablanca blocks the center, and he will figure out where to go from then. He wants to play h3. Black will have to decide what to do with the bishop. At some point, push g4 and f5 and start an attack against the black king. We have queen to b6, making room for the a pawn, and now comes rook to b1. Preparing ideas like a4. We have a6 and now h3, saying either you capture my knight or move back with the bishop. Bishop to f5, and now of course you could capture here, and after knight capture start g4, maybe first king h2 and then g4, but Capablanca goes about it differently. First he pushes g4 immediately. Now black has to decide what to do with the bishop. Bishop captures on c2 is played. We have queen captures, and now it's one of those moments when you're playing with the black pieces and you have to decide, is allowing white to push f5 better or worse than you yourself pushing f5? Because if you yourself push f5, then you've already given white a passed e pawn. And here, yeah, I mean, if you try something like any move, then f5 will be very strong. Already f6 is a threat, and well, after f6, e6 is coming. It's just not better than immediately going for f5. So here Blackburn immediately pushes f5, and we have king to h2 by Capablanca. Of course, you don't want to do something like capture, then you give black a very nice outpost for his knight on f5. So king to h2, improving the position of the king, also freeing the g file for your rooks. We have knight to c6, now remaneuvering the knight over to e6. We have rook to g1 by Capablanca, and here Blackburn doesn't go about it correctly. He makes a mistake. Queen to d8 was a very important move here, but it's well, it becomes clear when it's needed, but you'll see why. Here Blackburn goes knight to d8, and this will be a problem. Capablanca goes g captures on f5, we have rook captures on f5, and now comes knight to h4, and this knight to h4 is the problem. If queen to d8 was played, knight to h4 would not have been possible, and black just continues playing normally. Here white pushes the rook back, and black simply doesn't have enough time. We have rook to h5, now attacking the knight, but it's far too late. Capablanca plays knight captures on g6, we have h captures on g6, and now rook captures on g6 with an attack on the queen, and it's just a, you know, it's not even a sacrifice. White now has two connected passed pawns which are about to start marching forward. The knight is very awkwardly placed there on d8, the rook is undeveloped, so it's basically like black is down material. And here, if you play something like queen to c7, trying to, you know, help out with the defense here, just rook bg1 is coming. It's just a nice attack. If you go knight here, then f5 is coming. If you defend with the rook, still f5 is coming and f6, and white just wins this. So Blackburn tried a different defense. After rook to g6, he tried queen to b8, making an idea of rook to a7 to help out with the defense of the g7 square. But here it also doesn't work. Capablanca makes it work even faster. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find the winning attack for white here. I will give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you have just defeated the Black Death on a Sunday. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, rook captures on g7, no fooling around. King captures and rook to g1, and now it doesn't really matter where the king goes, the queen is coming all the way to g6. We have king to f8, and now queen comes to g6 with an attack on the rook here. And there's no way to actually save the rook. For example, if you go something like rook to h8, e6 is coming, and after something like queen a7, you get queen to f6 check, you're going to pick up the rook, your own rook is controlling the g file, king e8, queen captures, and now it's, you know, just everything loses. Rook g7 check, after the knight blocks, your own queen is under attack, but it doesn't really matter. Rook captures, king here, queen e5 check, king has to move, now you capture the queen, and it's just all over. So here, Blackburn decided to give up the rook. Rook captures on h3. We have king captures on h3. And it was in this position that Joseph Henry Blackburn, whom they also called the Black Death, resigned the game. Why did he resign? Well, his pieces are just terrible, and white actually has a forced checkmate, so there's that. But after something like queen c8 check, king has to move, or you can push f5, you can just block it, knight f7, or you can bring the rook into the game. Doesn't really matter, but whatever you play. The e6 is coming. It's I mean, just terrible. King e8. Now you can even win the queen here, or you can just deliver checkmate. King d7, queen captures, king goes here, rook g6, queen has to block, and now rook captures will be checkmate. But yeah, Blackburne did not wait for that. After king to h3, he resigned the game. But yeah, before I forget, as this was the last game of the first part of the 1914 tournament in St. Petersburg, let's check out the standings. Yes, we do have them now. These are the standings, the preliminary cross table. Capablanca first with 8 points. That's insane. That's 1.5 point ahead of world champion Emanuel Lasker and Zygmunt Tarrasch. So Tarrasch and Lasker tied for second with 6.5. Then it's Alekhine with 6 and Marshall with 6. So these are the 5 contestants that are going into the second part of the tournament, and they are going into a double round robin. Then we have Bernstein with 5, Rubinstein with 5. Rubinstein had a great tournament, and he played great chess, but he lost 1 game to Alekhine and 1 game to Lasker, and that was enough to kick him out of the top 5. Which, you know, as Capablanca said before the tournament even started, that he held either Rubinstein or Lasker to win the tournament as favorites. But yeah, 2 losses against Alekhine and Lasker, and there you have it, already 7th on the list. Nimzowitsch with 4, Joseph Henry Blackburne with 3.5, Janowski with 3.5, and Isidor Gunsberg with 1 point. Only 2 draws in last place. So yeah, that's it for the first part of the tournament. Like I said, do check out the other games by Joseph Henry Blackburne, where we talk a bit more about this gentleman. It will be the first 2 links in the description below, so feel free to check it out. The videos are a bit older, but you know, you can also enjoy that as well. So I would like to thank DB, Robert Arathun, Guram Vardiashvili, Matthew Harris, and Andrew Knight for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the second part of the 1914 tournament in St. Petersburg, and you know, as usual, checking up on stuff. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your Sunday.